What's up guys, and welcome back to another video from me again today. And today I thought I'd get back onto the tuning aspect of things. A while ago I did a base tips and tricks for setting up a rear wheel drive car in Forza Horizon 2, and I'm going to do the same now for an all wheel drive car. Historically, all wheel drive cars haven't been the best in Forza, especially the Forza Motorsport series, but in Horizon 2 with the off-road sections in it now, you can actually use four-wheel drive cars a lot more effectively. So I've picked a car anyway. The car we're going to go with is the 1992 Ford Escort RS Cosworth. It's a 90s rallies car. I haven't bought this car at all yet. You can see it's not in my garage, so we're going to go ahead and buy it. We'll see if we can find ourselves a funky little paint as well to go along with it. Hopefully there'll be something good in the recommended designs. We've got a rally inspired one, a blue one, a police one, a Repsol Honda one, some very plain ones, some very strange ones. Let's go with one of these two. Which one looks the best? Let's go with that one actually. Let's go with the blue one, something a little bit different. So we'll buy that car at 21,000 credits, it's a bargain. So we're going to go over some of the base tips and tricks for setting this car up. It's not going to go into too much detail because part of the fun with tuning is learning the bits yourself as well. So what I used to do is if I was a bit unsure what one part would do, I'd move it all the way to one end and then drive the car and see what it did, and then move it all the way to the other end and do the same. And that way you can try and get a good idea of how it affects the car when you're tuning it. But first of all, we're going to have to upgrade it. So we're going to custom upgrade. Right then, where to start? If you're new to tuning and building cars, a lot of people always go, right, need more power, which is good in certain respects, but you also need handling to go along with it. So if you're new and you're fairly new and or a novice, this is what I would recommend that you do. So tyres wise, we're not on Storm Island, so I'm not going to go with any of the rally upgrades. This is just normal. You can add the rally upgrades if you're doing Storm Island expansion pack, and the principles work the same. So, but for this we're going to go with the race tyre compound, so we're going to try and get as much grip out of the car as possible. We haven't decided what class the car is going to be in yet either. What I usually do is wait until I've added all the handling upgrades on and then see what class it's in then, and then try and round it up to the class that it's in. So if I add all the handling upgrades and it goes from B to A class, or the middle of A class, then I'll make it into A class, so I won't add a huge amount of power into it. We shall add the adjustable bumpers on. I've got quite a few. Oh, some nice rally ones in this. I hadn't spotted them ones before. It looks pretty cool. I'm going to have to do a Storm Island video on that now with the rally kit on it. But we'll go with the adjustable one for now, just so we can change the settings and make it a little bit easier. We've got lots of awesome looking spoilers on this as well. But we'll go with the Forza one. Rear bumper. Yeah, we'll go with that one. Side skirts, we've only got one option. Do we put the mud flaps on? Hell yes we do. And bonnet. Now the bonnet I usually leave. Oh, it can be loads of lights. That's going to look awesome in rally spec. But the bonnet I usually leave because sometimes when you see how it adds PI onto it, because you're losing a little bit of weight with certain ones, or you're adding weight with that one. So leave the bonnet till the last. I know it looks really cool with a good bonnet thing on, but you might be able to spend that 1 or 2 PI somewhere else. It might be the difference between putting a race air filter on and only putting a sport one on. So after you've done the tyres and you've done the AERO, you want to go on to platform and handling, and you want to add all of these. So make sure we've got the best brakes on. We'll go race suspension, we're not doing Storm Island stuff. And we'll go put both the anti-roll bars on. And roll cage. And weight reduction should put us into A class, I would have thought. Yes. Here you go, A712, and we've got all the weight reduction on. Drivetrain. I use manual with clutch, so I don't upgrade the clutch because all it does is add PI on, and if you're using manual with clutch you won't get any benefit from it. So If you're using automatic, then clutch is an option. If you're using manual with clutch, then don't, because it's just wasting PI. We'll put the race transmission in. We're going to do the race driveline. No, sorry, don't do the race driveline. Leave the driveline till last. I'll show you why in a minute. And race differential. So now we have all the platform and handling parts that we want. We have all the drivetrain parts that we want at the moment, tyres and aero. Right, so the next thing to look at is conversions. Now you can do engine conversions. You can put a rally engine in, or you can put the V8 in. Now if you put the V8 in, it goes up into S-Class, which is going to be way too much power for this car, and it's going to be detrimental to the handling. That takes us from 718 to 781, but for the purpose of this, I'm going to leave the stock engine in. You get a lot of boost, from you can see there, the torque wise, you get a lot of boost at low range, and then it drops off, whereas that one is more of a gradual. So it's going to help with wheel spin a little bit, because you're not getting that massive boost of power down low range. You can use that if you want, because it might be worth doing it for off-roading sections to get out of corners and get a little bit more acceleration. But for this video, we are going to stick with the stock powertrain, because what that will do, that will allow me to show you a few more engine upgrades. Drivetrain swap, we're going to leave it all-wheel drive, of course. You could move it to rear-wheel drive if you wanted to. You can see how much the PI goes up just by changing it to rear-wheel drive, and as a result the car is also a lot lighter as well. So that's where the PI increase comes from. So we shall now move across to engine upgrades. Now the ones that I usually do the most, if you have a turbo option or if you have a supercharger option, always go with that one first. That's what I find you get the most benefit from. Obviously if we would have put the 6.2 litre V8 in, we could have had a supercharger, but for this we've only got turbos, so we'll put the race turbo in. Next thing you want to do, or next thing I always do, is the exhaust, because it makes it sound really cool. It makes it sound a lot louder. So you lose a lot of weight with the exhaust, and you also get a fair bit of power as well. So it's 2516 without the exhaust on, and 2452 with the race exhaust on. So you lose a lot of weight and you gain a bit of power. So that's going to be cool. Next thing you want to go with is displacement. I always find this is quite good, and luckily that takes us straight up to 800. So we've got 332 horsepower, 332 pound-foot torque, and it weighs 2,452 pounds. So you might be thinking now, right, that's it, we're at 800, we are done. But what you can usually do are little bits that you can add on, but don't usually add extra PI. See, you see that? We can add that on, it's still 800, but we've lost £4. Can't do that one because that one's too much. Likewise, if you wanted to, you could leave that and you could go back onto the bonnets and you could change the bonnets around. So as long as that one actually because it add weights on, it takes the PI off. But you got an option to change the bonnets as well if you want. But we're not going to go with weight reduction. We are going to go with driveline. So we'll put the first driveline on, lose an extra £4, and that should make us that little bit faster. Right, going back onto engine upgrades as well, the two upgrades you never want to add on are the intercooler and the oil and cooling. They add more weight than they do power, so even though the PI goes up, I'd never use them. I've never used them in any Forza game that I've played, and I very rarely use the flywheel as well. I only use the flywheel if I've got 1 or 2 PIs to spend that I can't use by adding another engine upgrade. I'll add the flywheel on. Right then, so there we are at 800, and we shall now go we'll go back out on track and we'll take it for a little spin and we'll get an idea of how the car feels without any tuning done to it at all. So let's see what it's like acceleration wise. So it bogs down a little bit in first gear, so when it comes off the line, so we can try and look at that with the gears to get a bit better pull off the line. Feels like it's got a fair bit of speed in it. See with the gears as well, where we didn't pull off the line very fast, and we're only just getting to 6th gear at 145, so we have got 6 gears, so we can lower the gear ratio down. Thanks for that, appreciate it. We can lower the gear ratio down a little bit and get a bit more acceleration, and also get full use of that 6th gear. So that's the first thing we can do. So we'll move on to cars and tuning. Now this is only on the Xbox One version. If you've got the Xbox 360 version, this option won't be available. They didn't add tuning in. Right then, so you can just move the final drive. So you can move it to the right to give yourself more acceleration, or left to be more speed. But I usually don't mess around with that too much. I usually do them manually. What I usually do is move the first one. Now we didn't get very good launch off the line, so what we want to do is move that line, the one that's orange, to the left a little bit, and we do that by moving the bar to the right. So we want to boost that up or down just to above the second dotted line as a base. And then what we'll do with the rest of these is we'll just try and even them out a little bit. So we're just, nothing scientific, just trying to keep the same amount of space between each gear. Make sure one isn't too long. And there. So you can see how much there is pretty much the same amount of space between each gear, and we've pulled it down. So we've done them each individually rather than do the final drive. The final drive is the easy way to do it, but you can affect with this you can change all the gears individually. So let's go back out and we'll take it for a spin and see how we get on. So we get a little bit of wheel spin off the line and we launch away, so it feels a lot better. Hopefully we'll be able to get into 6th gear now as well. If not, we can always lower it down a little bit more. And we're not going to test out before we get to this. I've just ordered myself a new Thrustmaster wheel as well, which should hopefully be coming tomorrow. So I'm super excited about that. I've just got to get the 3-pedal upgrade for it, and also the stick shift. So when that comes, this game is going to be amazing. Right, I think we could possibly lower the gears down a little bit more, because you see we've got quite a long stretch of straight road here, and we're still not getting into 6th. So we'll do it here because it looks like there's a straight bit of road to the right and to the left. So with tuning, no, we don't want to do speed cameras. With tuning, there is a lot of this, is testing, going into it, testing, going into it. Now I'm happy with the space between the gears, so now I'm going to use the final drive just to lower this down a little bit, and I'm just going to move it to the first gear is just before the dotted line. Again, nothing scientific, it's just how I feel the car handles. So now we've got a lot better launch off the line then. Nice bit of straight road, so we can see if we can get into 6th gear and see what speed we can get out of it. So now we've gone a little bit too far, because now we're topping out in 6th gear, and I feel like the car's got a little bit more power to give. So let's go back into tune cars. So now we can change these a little bit. So now we're happy with 1st, but now 6th is too long, too short. So we're going to move that up to give us a bit more gear in 6th. And then all we have to do again is just space these out, just so there'll be a bit more of a space in between each gear now. But we can. Right, that should hopefully be okay. Same amount of space between all the gears, and it shouldn't affect the launch because we didn't move 1st gear. But we should have a bit more top end in 6th. It should keep going, keep pulling a bit more. In races, it's going to be very unlikely you're going to get a long stretch of road like this anyway. It's raining, it's getting a bit slippy. Right, so overall gear wise, we'll just test the launch again, make sure it's all good. Right, I'm happy with the launch. So gears wise, we are good. We are very good. Right then, so next on to the next bits. Tyres. Tyre pressure, I follow the same principle I did on Forza Motorsport. I usually drop them down a bit. What this will do is create more heat in the tyre and you'll get more grip. So I usually take about 1.5 off each, and that usually gets it to around, when you're looking on the temperatures for the tyres, around 32 degrees, which seems to be the golden number on most Forzas. But if it's 32.5 on the front for your temperature, then just knock half a PSI off, and and that should even it out, or plus 0.5 of the PSI, and that will cool it down a little bit more. So it depends, yeah, depends how you want to go. If it's above 32 PSI, yeah, if it's above 32 PSI when you tested the tyres out, so if it's 32.5 when they're hot, just drop it down a bit, and that'll drop the hot temperature down to 32. It gets quite confused. I'll see if I can show you what I mean. I'll put the telemetry on. If I can remember how to get the telemetry on. I didn't want the radio on. I can't actually remember how to get the telemetry on. Oh, there we go. Right, and so where's the tyre temperature? I'm changing the view. I played this for so long. There we go. Is that the one? Oh, there we go. Right, tyres miscellaneous. So you can see the pressure there, 30.3 psi. We'll go for a little drive round. I'm not too sure if the rain affects the tyre temperature overall. We'll get some cornering going on. Get a bit of temperature into the tyres. So you can see front and back, they're both around 30 psi. This is where again you have to test things out and just see how they go. This is quite in depth. You could just put it at 28.5, or you could just leave it at 30 and you probably wouldn't notice that much difference. You see the back tyres are down to 29 on the rear left. So what we'll do, so say about 30 psi, and we want to get them to 32. So we've got to add 2 psi on. So actually with this one, you want to add them up to 30.5. And then what that will do is as you're driving around, the tyre pressure then will go from 30 psi to 32. I hope you understood that. If you haven't, let me leave any comments in the section below and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. Camber wise, I usually find that quite a lot of camber works out quite well. And as a base, I usually go around minus 2.1 for the front and about minus 1.8 for the rear. I find on most cars that seems to work quite well. Don't have to go too in depth on camber because it's not racetrack, it's on the open road, so it doesn't have to be dialed in as much as it would be on Forza Motorsport 5. Now the way I see this is if you move it that way, it makes it more stable. If you move it that way, it makes it more responsive and turns in quicker. So for rear wheel drive cars, I usually add 0.2 negative onto that to try and stable the back up a little bit to stop the back end from spinning out. But as we're in a front wheel drive car, and front wheel drive cars predominantly have understeer, I'm going to turn that up to 0.1, which will help the front end turn into corners, and then I'm going to put that at 0.1 as well, which will help the back turn. That might be too much, but we're going to test it out and we can always come back and change again if it doesn't work. Front caster, as I said in another video of mine, I see this as a way to see this is to look at it as a turning circle. So if you move it that way, then you'll have a smaller turning circle, which is good for tight corners. And if you have it that way, then it will be a larger turning circle, which is better for fast sweeping corners. So usually I have it around anything between 5.9 and 6.1. We'll try it off with 5.9 for now. So we'll just come out of this and we'll get another spin and see what that's changed. Get the telemetry off. See if we can pass him before this corner. It does feel like because we made them changes to the toe, the front does feel a lot more responsive. Try and get to a corner so I can see what it's like mid-corner and get a bit of idea what we can do with the roll bars. So the anti-roll bars affect the car mid-corner, so it's not when you're going into the corner, it's not when you're coming out of it, it's the actual middle bit, and what the car does there gives you an idea of what you need to do on the roll bars. Unfortunately we're on a long stretch of road which I can't really test it. Try and do some sharp turns. Right, as I turn in then you can feel like the front's understeering a little bit. Yeah, it is understeering. It does feel pretty stable, but it does feel like it's understeering a little bit. So we shall go into tuning and hopefully try and sort that out with the tuning. Right, so you can see this here, front end roll bars are a lot stiffer than the rear, so that is naturally going to give us a little bit of understeer. So we're not going to change too much with these. Usually you can have a mess around with this quite like, you can have them quite stiff or quite soft, but all we're going to do for this is we're just going to bump it down, again not scientific, we're just going to roughly move it down to about there, and hopefully that will remove a little bit of the understeer. Now we'll go on to springs. Now springs, because there's a lot of off-roading sections in Forza Horizon 2, if it was in Forza 5 I'd say drop it all the way down, but with this I usually just try and give it a little bit of ground clearance, just so we don't bottom out when we go over big jumps and stuff, which if you don't store might under a lot of big jumps on that, so you will bottom out quite a bit. Springs wise, we're just going to soften it down a little bit. You need to remember the note between the two orange lines and what difference there is between them, so you can see where the orange line is on that one at the end of the white bar and where the orange line is on that one at the end of the white bar, and try and keep those separate. I mean, you can just take 100 off that one and 100 off that one if you want, that should keep the same ratio, and we'll try that actually. So what was that on? 695, so we'll take that down, we're just going to soften it up a bit. Now I'm going to go quite extreme with this and go 595, so we'll take 100 off. And we'll do 553 on that one. So we've kept the same distance between the front and the gear suspension, and we've raised it a little bit, so we made it a little bit softer, and we've raised the ride height. Damping. Now this is always the bit where it gets quite difficult. You want whichever one of these bars, front or rear, where the engine is, whichever the most weight is, that's the one you want to be the highest. With this car, it's a front engine car, so we've got the front rebound higher than the rear. If it was a rear engine or mid-engine you can pretty much have them equal, depending on the weight distribution of the car. If it's rear engine, you want that one higher. But as a base, what I usually do is you can just soften these up a bit. I usually have them around 9.2 and about 8.4. And then the bump, we'll just drop this down by about 2 points, so from 7.2 to 5.2, and we'll go 4.8 with that one, and that'll just make the ride a little bit softer and hopefully make it a little bit more grippy in the process. Aero, we're going to boost this up all the way up to maximum, get the most amount of grip we can. Braking's quite easy. If you move it that way, then you'll have more braking bias at the rear. Don't let the front and the rear thing above it confuse you. You get more rear braking there, so you've got more chance of oversteering when you go in, when you brake into a corner. And if you likewise, if you do it that way, you'll get more understeer when you go into the corner. But what I usually do is I like to have a bit of oversteer, so I usually have about 53%, so a bit more brakes on the rear. Pressure, you have around 109%, just for a bit more brake pressure. And now the very confusing part, differential. Now this controls wheel spin and stuff like that. We haven't got a stupidly high horsepower car, so we don't need to fine tune this to hell. But what I usually do on all-wheel drive cars, I find it works quite well on all of them, is have this around 95. You can even go up to 100 on this, and just have that at around, we'll go 15% with this. Acceleration, obviously, the way it works is if you've got that all the way up, then when you accelerate, the wheels will spin more. And if it's a rear-wheel drive car, you've got more chance of the back end coming round and you're spinning out. And deceleration, when you go in a corner and you let off the throttle, if you've got it low down as I have on that one, then the car will turn into the corner more. If you have it higher up, then the car won't turn in as much. So if you find yourself oversteering when you're coming off the throttle as you go around the corner, then boost your deceleration up on either which, depending if you're doing rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive cars. But because four-wheel drive cars have a bit of understeer anyway, we're going to leave that as it is to get the front. What that will do is that will allow the car to pull itself around the corner. It will turn into the corner when we come off the throttle, and then we're going to try and get the back end to push around as well. So we're going to have this quite high. And we're going to drop that down to about 63. I might even drop that down a little bit more because we haven't got a massive amount of horsepower in there. I find more horsepower you have, the higher up you can have that, and it seems to work out. But this does take a bit of testing if you want to fine tune your cars a lot. So last bit is the torque split. So that's where most of the power goes to, whether it's the front or the rear. And as with most, you can just put all the torque to the rear if you wanted to and try and make it feel like a rear-wheel drive car, but that's not really the point of four-wheel drive cars. So we're going to try and keep it pretty sensible. Stock one was 66, that's not too bad, but it's going to go up to about 68. And let's take this for a spin. Let's carry on our drive and see how we get on now. I need a twisty bit of road. I need to get off the motorway. This isn't going to help with our handling tuning. The corner coming up. No, it's not a corner, it's a bridge.
You leveled up.
Right, so let's see if we can do any event. Let's take it on a Rivals event and see how we get on. So we want something that's going to be off-roady. So we're looking Montellino. Northern Valley Cross Country. Let's give that a whirl. We'll put it in A class. We'll see how the car handles and how we get on. Hopefully this video has been a lot longer than I hoped it to be. I was only going to do a quick overview, but hopefully you guys have found these little bits of information I've been giving you helpful. If you have got any questions, just feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll try and answer as many as I can and give you guys as much help as I can as well, because I know tuning is kind of like a black art at times, and people do want to do it, and a lot of people shy away from it because it feels so confusing. Let's see how we get on. We've got a few corners on this one, so this should be cool. So that ride height, higher in the ride height, and softening the suspension has helped us a little bit over these bumpy bits. We're not grounding out. Car's still pretty stable as we go through all this. The car just feels really nice to drive, actually. Not too sure how long this track is. A nice little big jump. I don't think I've done this Rivals event before. It's a nice track, getting sideways. Nice little off-roading section to the trees as well. It's get quite hairy in first person view when the grass gets a bit long because you can't really see where you're going. Yeah, so you guys can follow along with this as well. If you want to build the same car and give me some feedback and let me know how you think it feels. This is the bit where it gets dicey and I can't see. Let me know how it feels, any improvements or changes you've made to it. Obviously mine's only a quick build with some base tips and tricks for you. Hopefully you'll be able to apply them to all your other all-wheel drive cars as well. You can possibly even take this up into the next class as well if you wanted to add an extra power into it. You could go and add the extra the other engine into it, or you could add a lot more power upgrades and get a bit more power out of it. Brake quite sharp for that. A little Scandinavian flick going on. This is quite a long track. Overall, the car does feel pretty damn stable. It turns when I want it to. It doesn't turn too much. Oh, big jump. It's controlled on the landing as well. We didn't get out of shape there. This is an awesome little track, this is. I'm going to have to remember this one for future videos. Little car tests. So I'm getting my wheel tomorrow as well, so there's going to be a lot more videos with that, and hopefully the tune should be a little bit better as well, a little bit more stable. If they're not already stable enough. But yeah, here we go, across the line. Overall, that car was a lot of fun to drive. It's really, really stable. It turns in when you want it to. And I enjoyed it. I think it's a good car. It might even be a keeper. Alright, so there you go, guys. That's my video that lasted a lot longer than I expected it to. I hope you all enjoyed it. And until my next video goes, I'll see you all soon.